France and England announced that they would like to recognize officially a Palestinian state this summer. My response is, be my guest. You really think that's going to work out for you? You really think it's a good idea to give the gift of statehood with the extraordinary privileges and responsibilities that come with that when we don't even have evidence of a Palestinian infrastructure that can distribute food to a nation that they claim is under famine and genocide? They can't distribute the food without that food going to the hands of Hamas distribution, extortion, where they take the money from the people. You want to do that? You really want to do that? You want to give statehood to the same people that are shooting rockets from under hospitals? You want to give statehood to groups that are hiding explosives inside schools, inside hospitals? Is that really your idea? Now, I know people will say, wait a minute, we're not giving statehood to Hamas, who proved to be the greatest enemy of the Palestinian people by hiding explosives and bombs and terrorism under every possible civilian infrastructure. We mean to the moderate, more representable, more presentable, I should say, group in the West Bank. We want to give it to Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority. Simple question. Why is the IDF out every night apprehending ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hamas operatives in the West Bank? You're going to give the gift of statehood to the people who cannot even confiscate an RPG from under their nose? You're going to give statehood to the people who are not able to administer the most basic elements of a civic society? There is no way you can administer a society if there are RPGs in the street. It just doesn't work. And so you're going to go and give statehood to Mahmoud Abbas, who is not even capable of making sure there are no RPGs handed out in kindergartens in Jenin, in Nablus? That's what you're going to do? Does that sound like a good idea? Let me ask you a question. What's going to happen tomorrow when North Korea says, okay, Palestine is a state, and you recognize that, and we would like to establish a pact with them in which we put our nuclear and ballistic missiles in Ramallah? Why not? What is to stop North Korea from opening a military base in Ramallah? Is there anything that can stop that? No. You recognize a Palestinian state. It's a state that is very much willing to be an Iranian proxy. We've seen that. And so you're going to give the gift of statehood that is going to enable North Korea to open a military base right on the Mediterranean in Gaza? What if China and North Korea and Iran decide that Gaza is their next place, and they make a in-between state kind of pact with the Palestinians that they can now turn Gaza into a North Korean, Iranian, what have you not port? What are you going to do then? You're going to have Chinese submarines in the Mediterranean? You're going to have Chinese submarines with weapons all over the Mediterranean? You're going to have a North Korean army base right there in Gaza? Is that what you really want to do? And who will take responsibility for the people's security? What's to tell us that RPGs will not be floating all over this new state that you recognize, Mr. Macron? And so when you see this idea, this dangerous idea of recognizing a Palestinian state with no capacity whatsoever to regulate its most basic civilian aspects of life, no ability to stop weapons, no ability to stop terrorists, no ability to make sure that hospitals and schools and all kinds of other civilian institutions are not used as rocket launching bases. If you don't have that verification, that knowledge, that certitude, how are you going to give them a state? But you know what? Be my guest. What's going to happen next? Do you think Israel's going to be the only one to suffer? No. France, it's going to be on the Mediterranean. You're going to have all those hostile countries to the west, enemies of NATO, based right there. It is the biggest gift in the world to the enemies of the West, to the enemies of NATO. What if Vladimir Putin says, okay, there's a Palestinian state, we have an agreement, I am allowed to build a huge military base in this state of Palestine? What if that happens? What are you going to do then? What are you going to do when the upcoming state of Palestine says, okay, we're okay with being a Russian ally? Did you wonder about that? Did you ask about that? How's that going to work out for NATO? And so to anyone who's saying, oh, free Palestine, let's have a Palestinian state, take a minute to ask yourself what that's going to do to you, what that's going to do to Ukraine, what that's going to do to France, and most importantly, for those who claim to care about the Palestinians, what's that going to do to the Palestinians when they turn into an Iranian and North Korean proxy?